Hi.
Hello. Welcome to our talk on preplay. Never prepared, always ready.
That's what we are.
Because that's us, that's our views of preplay. I'm Karolina Fedyk. Originally, I'm from Poland. I'm a LARPer, occasionally a LARP writer. In my day job, I'm an academic and a researcher, and I spend all the other time writing fiction. I'm also not a fan of preplay.
Hi, I'm Glowacka. I'm also from Poland. I'm also mostly a LARP player these days. I also do some LARP design, LARP writing, and a lot of LARP-related crafts. I'm a landscape architect, so I'm mostly into plants, and I do preplay somewhat. Okay, so
Do you now?
For the use of this talk, we try to coin a definition of what preplay is for us, so that we all know what we're talking about. And that's what we have for now.
Yep. So when we were discussing preplay and what preplay means for us, the element that stood out to me the most was interactivity of preplay. It's kind of in the name, it implies play. So to me, preplay is the activities that engage not just you, but your co-players before the LARP.
And another aspect of this, which is also on the tin, is that the activities that you do in character will most probably be preplay, while what you do out of character, even if it's engaging and can have similar forms, it's probably not preplay. And those two connect to become the third aspect of our definition, which is time constraints.
Yeah, so if you think of preplay as what you do with other players, it will probably be something like text roleplay or in-character discussions, and they will very often demand that you respond to them in real time, that you'll all be sitting at your laptops or on your smartphones and messaging each other, expecting quite quick replies. And this creates a very important time constraint, meaning if you can't be online or present at a given time for whatever reason, and there's a variety of reasons, you might miss out even when you want to be involved.
Mm-hmm. Especially that some of us have very intense lives, and usually we would have time to participate, but if preplay is very expansive, there might be a problem with it. Some of us are children caretakers or live in a different time zone. So this third aspect also affects whether the activity we're talking about is preplay or not, because if you do something out of character and if you do something alone, you most probably can do it on a bus on your way from work or while jogging or just doing whatever. But if there are other people who had to be present in real time, it becomes very difficult. And that's what we're talking about here. Okay.
Also, I would like to add to this, the reasons for not engaging in preplay don't have to be serious real life related issues. You might just have another hobbies that you want to spend time on. That's an absolutely valid reason to not want to do preplay.
Or you just might not like it, which is also absolutely fine. Okay, so let's move to another thing. Not all the LARP styles, not all gaming styles support the preplay the same way, and the preplay doesn't support them the other way around. Because if LARP you're going to is a competitive LARP, either there won't be much preplay or no preplay at all, or the preplay will have a completely different form than play to lift, play to lose LARP, during which you want to continue on the plots you previously designed, and people don't mind spoilers. They want all the spoilers to use them in a very precise, sophisticated way. So those are two separate things, and this is also part of why preplay isn't always the same thing.
Also, different styles of play aside, you as a player might prefer to be genuinely surprised in game. It's totally fine to not want transparent play. If you want your surprise be as much in character as out of character, you do you. That's also a good reason to not want to participate in extensive preplay.
And the conclusion of it is that no matter what type of game you want to give to other people, this should always be considered and put into either a design doc or however else you communicate what your game is, because we are all very enthusiastic about LARPing. So no matter if a game demands some preplay, because without it you simply don't know where you are or what to do, and for example, due to time constraints, the game doesn't have enough workshops or doesn't have any workshops, it's also absolutely fine if all the pieces of the game add up and it works. This is okay. But on the other hand, there might be games that don't need necessarily pre-play, but contribute from it. So in those cases, sometimes the players simply get so enthusiastic that this escalates, and people who would normally not really be disadvantaged because nobody does so much pre-play suddenly find themselves in a completely different game. So maybe it's not that it should be controlled or limited, but it always should be considered and communicated very, very clearly.
Yeah, I would like to add two things to this. First is that over-enthusiastic pre-players is also something that affects the LARP runners, because LARP runners might not have the time or ability to be on board with pre-play or follow it. So you might end up surprising your own LARP runners. But also communicating it clearly is, to me, a matter of fairness and of, well, clear communication, basically. Because when I sign up for a LARP, I have to consider how much time I will have to spend on this game before. And I think about things such as costume preparation, if any, of buying props, of travel, also pre-play. I just, most of the time, I cannot commit to a pre-play heavy game. And if I sign up for such a game, I'm just going to, well, maybe not entirely ruin the experience for everyone, but certainly I want to make it better. So help yourselves and help your players make this LARP better by communicating what it demands from everyone involved.
Yep. So we established that pre-play is generally great, but it can be bad if people don't really know what they are doing. So we want to help to recognize the signs that something's not really going the way it should be. And that's what we'll be discussing in a moment. See you in a sec, we need some tea.
See you. Hello again, and welcome to the second part of our talk, where we discuss the good, the bad, and the indifferent of pre-play.
Not ugly.
So I know I don't come across as a person who likes pre-play. I did say I'm not a fan, but this doesn't mean I can't appreciate it. And I see pre-play as yet another tool in a LARP. But as any other tool in your toolbox, it can be used in a way that enhances your game or doesn't contribute as much to it.
Yeah. So
think of it as right-handed scissors. Yeah, they're great. You can cut things with them as long as you're right-handed, exactly. Which I'm not. So it's going to work splendidly for some people and not so great for others. Here we would like to discuss how we can spot situations where it doesn't work, and then we'll go on to proposing alternatives.
Mm-hmm. And one thing is right-handed scissors used by left-handed people. Another is tools that are simply not good for a specific situation, like don't use a huge hammer for a very tiny nail, and the other way around. So for us, the first sign that something is not really going right is that there are very big visible differences between how active people are. And it's not like they are visible in a small period of time, but throughout the whole pre-game period, because people are busy, obviously, or simply don't feel like it. Or sometimes they communicate, hey, I won't have time with it, but I don't really mind. I'll deal with it differently. But if somebody is stubbornly quiet, it means that there is something very wrong, especially that this tends to happen to people who might, for example, suffer from social anxiety. And they will never come up and say, hey, can we do it slower? Or can you please give me some directions? And there is another group of people who can be very, very damaged by this if it's done wrong, and we might all suffer from it, which is first-time players.
Yeah, it's quite easy to approach pre-play when you've LARPed before or played tabletop RPGs, because you kind of get the general idea of how to be in character, how to separate yourself as a player from yourself as character. But we don't arrive at LARP scenes with these skills. They come from practice, they come from communication. And if it's your first time LARP, it might be that you jump right in and have heaps of fun in pre-play as well, but it's also very likely that you'll be terribly confused.
Mm. Each and every LARP is something new, is a discovery. And the first LARP is usually very, very shocking. Even if it's not a huge blockbuster, it will most probably just mess with your brain because you've never experienced something like it. It's super, super intense, even for me 20 years later. And my first game was very, very low key. Still, there is another aspect of this, especially when it comes to international LARPs, but also local LARPs. There is something like LARP community. And of course, we are mostly very welcoming and so on. But if you simply don't know those friendly, welcoming people, they will be intimidating for you anyway. So if you are a first-time LARPer, and not only you have to face the whole huge challenge of being someone else for a while, you need to face twice as much before the actual challenge happens, and then you do it with other people who are probably trying to be someone else, and those someone else's can be very, very threatening or scary. You know, this phenomenon of seeing actual players through the lens of their first characters that you ever encountered. And it can really, really affect how you see people who are otherwise very lovely. So if somebody has a very unfortunate experience of this, they might never come back and we lose it forever.
But I think what we have here is a lesson to people who have been around LARPs for a while. It's on us to be kind and welcoming. It's on us to make the situation open and friendly to every newcomer. So if you know that there's a first-time LARPer in a LARP, also when you're doing pre-play, do something about it to help them join, explain if needed, pre-play with them. I just recommended pre-play. It's recorded now. I can't say I'm not a fan anymore. But yeah, there's yet another group that can be disadvantaged by pre-play, especially when it's done in text form, namely people who have dyslexia or other learning difficulties, who may just not be they may not be able to cope with big amounts of text, particularly if it's in a foreign language.
Yeah, and it goes very fast.
Yeah, and if writing in another language and reading in another language takes a lot of your brain space, well, it will affect your pre-play, and you're more likely to get exhausted or step back from it because you might feel like you're not good enough or not quick enough. I get that sometimes, even though I don't have learning difficulties, but I sometimes feel like I cannot keep up with what's going on. So, better if I just remove myself.
Yeah, that brings us to another point, because preplay is most often in text form, which is simply RP in some kind of medium of your choosing. But it's not the only form that we can think about, because visual form and audio form can diversify it a little and make it easier for people to approach. Especially that, for example, for some people, writing regularly and following long threads can be hard because it's spread out over weeks sometimes. For other people, joining a conversation in real time might be hard because, for example, they live in a different time zone. But for the same people, following a long conversation might be easier. And for the first people I mentioned, joining a chat once a week might be really fun and something that will make them rest or get into the game better. So we should find a form that will be optimal, and we shouldn't really stick to one of them, because this way we can engage as many people as we can. And for example, somebody will discover this works for me. I was always afraid of doing it because I don't know those folks and they are such a great writers and I don't really feel like I'm a good one. And then it feels like it's way better when I actually engage in it slowly because I had a choice of doing something else. So if this works, I have something else as well.
You touched upon something really important here, namely technology. Because this can be either a hurdle or a beneficial thing as well. Yeah. So a lot of pre-play I've seen has been done through Facebook. I personally absolutely hate it. I don't like the fact that Facebook is now a social medium that I sometimes use for work. People message me with work-related things or with job offers. At the same time, it's a place where I just want to hang out with my international friends. And then suddenly there's pre-play in the scene as well. And it's absolutely fine to not like it. On the other hand, if we look for other apps or media, this can be a hurdle in itself as well. Like if you introduce, say, Slack or some similar form, There are people who know Slack already who are able to navigate the channels with no problem. Some of people would not even know what Slack channels are. They're basically chat channels, but you know. So it's something to be mindful of, that every type of technology, every type of medium is going to be a hurdle in itself to some of us. And choosing one or choosing the other is going to come with its own baggage of disadvantages.
And the size of a game is a factor in it. Because if you have a big game with a lot of players, them being spread out over several types of media or services, it's okay. Because then you cannot play with everybody. That's not physically possible. That's just not possible. But if you have a small game, coordinating in a more strict way will probably be helpful. Again, we go back to the communicate with your idea so that people know what they're actually doing, and they will do something that will contribute to their game. But preplay is actually great. And Kelly told you that, and Kelly really doesn't do it. I do it. Because while preparing to this, we tried to figure out how to tell that something's wrong. And we figured out that you actually can help so many people through preplay. For example, people with learning disabilities, if they have an opportunity to read things slower and there is a proper rate at which preplay is happening, they have an opportunity to join before the game and, for example, learn in-game terms, learn long chains of words, learn foreign language in reading and then in speech, in-game names, and connect names with faces and with player names and faces, which is really awesome. For example, I'm very bad at names, I'm great with faces. So I have to learn such things before the game, because otherwise I will simply recognize people on like the last evening or the evening game. So
I'm the very opposite. I cannot remember faces at all. And if you put on a costume, it's very likely that I won't recognize you. So I'm very grateful for in-character photos, because that's how I recognize people at the game.
Exactly. And this can be a part of preplay. Characters posting their photos, doing their own things. This is preplay. You do it in character. You do it with other people. And well, it can take some time. So there is another thing, another aspect of how preplay is great. You don't really have to engage in it. If other people do and it's available somewhere online, you can just read it or watch it or listen to it. And while you can do it not interactively while going back from work, you still learn things about the game and you are a part of it. So it is great. And there was one more thing I wanted to say. Oh yeah, there are different ways of learning. For example, when I hear something, I will probably forget it instantly because I'm very bad at listening to information and simply remembering it. But if I get to read things before the game, before I actually hear them, because LARPs are mostly about talking, it will stick. So that's another way how it's great. And one more thing I already said, but I want to emphasize it. We mostly play LARPs in English or in foreign language. And being able to read it before you talk, it's simply becoming friendly with what will happen, and it becomes way less intimidating.
Yeah, I think it's a mixed blessing of having English or any lingua franca at that point. Because while we all expect to know it to some degree, I mean, hey, we're having this whole conference in English, but at the same time, our skills don't match, as in it's going to be more or less difficult for some of us. We may have better reading comprehension, or we might be better at listening or at speech production. Some of us can do accents, others absolutely can't, and so on and so forth. So in this way, preplay can help to somehow close the gap between us and help us find a language that we all share within English.
Yeah.
I just said that preplay is good.
Yeah, it is. That's a way to express yourselves in more ways than just at a LARP, and it's awesome. So now we need more tea, and see you in a sec. We will talk about other things, and you'll see them in a moment.
See ya. Hi, and welcome back. This time we're going to talk about how to be ready, or how to prepare for LARP without doing preplay, what to do instead of preplay, how to get to know your character without preplay.
Or just how to limit it if you really don't feel like doing it or you don't have time to do it. Okay, so let's start with what do you need to do to become a character? Well, of course, there are so many things about immersion and stuff, but mostly you just put on a costume. There are LARPs that don't have them, but even symbolically, you usually put on something else that's not your clothes and not your accessories. So while this is a purely out-of-game activity to go and find something, even if it's very little and it's very limited, you can try to think about it from a character point of view and not your own. While you get your clothes and your shirt and your, I don't know, hairbands even, it's not yours, it's your characters. And thinking about why did they choose this specific item? What does it mean for them? Where does it come from? Who gave it to them? And so on. Of course, it's character creation as well. But for some people, like for me, I'm very visual, and like space around me is what affects me the most at the LARP. Such things can provide a lot of in-character insight that is internal, individual preplay that you do while doing other things that are necessary for participating in the LARP anyway. So you don't waste time on it while thinking about things that you would do anyway. So getting something that's your characters and why even the color is the one that you chose can provide a lot of insight, and that's something that you can share with other people as well. So it helps you to get into character at a very low cost of time and other things.
Oh, absolutely. Another way of exploring your character and communicating your character to yourself is through tropes. Tropes are a way of understanding in very basic general terms what what your character is about. And by tropes we mean not just TV tropes, although you're probably all familiar with the page and you may want to take a look if you're looking for inspiration, but even just comparing your character to characters that you see in media that are on TV shows that behave in a way that you see your LARP character behaving. This can be not only a source of mannerisms that you can later use at a LARP, but also a way of conceptualizing for yourself what kind of person your character is.
And it's a very useful tool when it comes to communication, because instead of talking about a thing for 5 or 10 minutes, you can just say Achilles heel, or, you know, TARDIS. My character has a TARDIS, and it's like this big, but it does the same thing. So tropes are awesome. Use them. It doesn't really matter if you're really into it or not. It's good to communicate, I'm in this type of medium or in some other thing. But everybody uses tropes, even if they claim they don't. So please do use them. And other things that are very basic, you might think, but again, can be very useful when it comes to character creation and can serve as something that you do instead of pre-play, is, like we said before, using other media. You don't have to write. You can also use playlists that you listen to when you are on your bus from work. That's what I do a lot. I think you already know it. And not only sharing it with other people, what you came up with, but listening to them yourself and thinking about connections, what they mean. But there are also other forms of it.
Just to add on playlists, because that's a form I really love. Let's stay on that.
I should have left it for you.
No. If it was up to me, I can talk for 40 minutes about playlists, because they are a great way of getting into the headspace of your character, into their moods, since I tend to go very often by lyrics, and I'm very picky about lyrics, but I sometimes need to remind myself that music is primarily about mood, and well, I might choose instrumental pieces as well. And that's something that can get you closer to your character, not just to their actions, but how is their inner life like, basically. And you can later communicate that to other people and add new songs after the LARP, but that's a whole different topic.
Yeah.
Also, yeah.
because I just need to say it. I just remembered about it, you know, like mind space trailers. You know the feeling when you're walking somewhere, it's dark and you have, you know, your headphones, and then you just your whatever you use picks this one song, and then suddenly you get this avalanche of a movie with your character because this is this song that you need, and you see the trailer of the life. That's
my writer friend calls this phenomenon own head cinema, where your brain just comes up with visual scenes that match the music and center your character. Of course, not everyone is going to have their own head cinema, but if you do, playlists are going to be an absolutely wonderful tool. All right. Then we also have mood boards.
Yeah, we kind of swapped.
For those of you who are not familiar, mood boards are collections of images that convey the mood or aesthetics or some details of your idea, your setting, or in this case, your LARP character. I think they're also a very good way of opening your understanding of your character, because you'll find yourself at some point going not for the most obvious associations, but you'll start thinking of different things, and just through searching, you might find things that you didn't at first consider would apply to your character, but then they suddenly do. Also, it's a beautiful visual tool for aesthetics and can guide you in completing your costume as well.
Yep. And we all spend time online. So we all scroll something, most probably Facebook or Instagram or whatever. So again, this is something that you don't do extra. Sometimes you can, of course, but running into something that makes you think of your character just happens. Or you can just take a photo of something that made you think about your character. And then those things, due to, you know, digital era we live in, are very easy to share. So you don't waste a lot of time on doing something that will contribute to your pre-play. That is not really a pre-play, okay? But you can share it with other people very easily. So again, you can do it without investing a lot in it.
Yep. Also, there's few things that are more fun than finding a stupid meme and linking it to your friends, going like, "Hey, look, it's my character."
Like,
I have a whole folder of those.
Yeah, same.
Anyway, our next stop in this talk is about characters themselves, about what roles to pick when you don't want to get involved a lot before a LARP, and what types of characters or protagonists are more conducive to minimal pre-play or no pre-play.
Yeah, so there are many ways to do it, because we are not trying to tell you do not do pre-play ever, or we want you to figure out ways to skip it entirely. But there are ways to limit it, or to pick just the parts of it that you want to do or feel like doing in any given moment. That's what we're trying to give you hints at.
Can you repeat the last two sentences, because you were cut off completely?
Oh, can you hear me now?
So everything from the start of, now I can hear well, but everything from the start, we're not telling you to never do pre-play ever.
Okay. I don't know, maybe we'll cut this off. I will see. Anyway, what I said is that we are not trying to exclude pre-play completely or give tools to do it, but to figure out how to limit it, or how to pick the pieces, parts of it that are simply something that you feel like doing in any given moment, or just are adjusted to a person's specific skills. Okay, so to move on to this, one of the examples I'll just pick from our list is a character who is already, due to the game design, well known to people, because they are simply unofficial materials. So you don't have to focus on getting yourself known to others, because they will simply be able to read it, or some other people might have information on this character. So you can completely skip a part where you need to present yourself in a way that's attractive and interesting, because people already know, for example, how you look like, what you can do, what your role is, and maybe it's not about fame, but it can also be part of it. So we can skip this part completely and focus on smaller things. So it's a lot of work that is out, and you don't have to waste time on it if you don't have it.
Yeah, that's a very interesting example of a role in which other people have more motivation to approach you than vice versa. And our second example is the very opposite of it. So think of characters that are newcomers. They might be literally strangers who stumble upon the scene in the LARP. They might be someone's new students or mentees or anyone new, really. These are characters that have very strong in-game motivation to explore the relationships, to go around and ask. They can be naive in-game without raising questions and people being like, but you're supposed to know these things. So in such roles, learning about the social situation is very much part of your LARP. So you just don't have to do it in preplay, you do it in the LARP.
And this might be even better in case of a character who also has some kind of secret plot that people shouldn't really know about, because it wouldn't work if they were too curious about you. And even by not giving them information, you would raise suspicions. So it can also be combined with this type of snaky character. And I would also like to go back to what you said before, because it's another type of character, someone who simply makes other work for them. Like it's not only about being known, it's a part of it, but if you create a character who engages people into preplay so that you don't have to reach out to them, they reach out to you. Of course, then you'll have some work and you'll spend some time on responding, but reading through all that was posted can be really time consuming. So if there are so many ways you can do it, I don't really want to go through the whole thing, but if you find a way for other people to reach out to you, for example, my character can do this and this and this, or is known for being active in a business that's this, which is somewhere in the design document, or that other people are also interested. This way, you can enable other people to reach out to you, and you will already select a group of characters you will interact with most probably, instead of looking for them among 200 people or something like that. So there are many ways to do it, but the general rule is make other people work for you because they might simply have time or have fun.
And to build up on that, another way to avoid getting too involved in preplay is, I don't want to say piggybacking on some other player, but piggybacking on some other player. So if you choose to play with a person that has a character that's strongly related to yours, you might want to pair up with someone who is really into preplay and say play their spouse or coworker or sibling or parent or whatever else works for you. And in this case, this person will be the one doing most preplay, but you will share it. And I'm not saying that this will mean that you're totally free to do nothing, because it'll just, let's say you'll be doing more work at another point, at the LARP most probably. You can help the person in another way. You can help them by finding costume elements for them, or in some other way. So I'm absolutely not saying that you should just benefit from someone's work, but you can find an agreement that serves you both best.
Mm-hmm. So as you can see, how you approach it depends on what the game is, how much time do you have, and what do you like to do? And there are many aspects of this. And while there is no good answer to how to do it, we just think that discussing it and going through it properly can help everybody. So there is no way we can discuss all the things that happen here. We'll probably come up with something and add it to the ending of this talk, because we do so many silly conversations in the background. Anyway, that's all for now. It comes to this part, and see you in a moment in another one that will deal with how to not be sad when you don't preplay if you want to. Hi again.
Hi, we're back and we're here to talk about FOMO. Yeah, FOMO is bad.
What is FOMO? It's fear of missing out, because I learned what it means like half a year ago, maybe.
Yeah, I just
experienced it.
People FOMO for not knowing what FOMO means.
Yeah, that's
well done, me.
Okay.
Yeah, so now that we are all on the same page and we know that FOMO is not something we enjoy, we would like to give you some ideas of how to alleviate it to make the game as enjoyable and memorable as possible.
And to start with the most difficult and obvious and most helpful thing, please express your concerns, because people really want to help you, and simply either feel awkward reaching out to someone who they don't need if they need their help, or for dozens of other reasons, don't start talking about such things. But please reach out. Please say, I'm afraid I won't make it. I'm not sure about my skills. I don't know if I can do it, because people really want to help you. And they might know how to do it. They might have tools. They might have their own experiences. I know it's hard. I'm always afraid of doing it, even though I've been doing it for so many years. But people want to help. You just need to encourage them a little.
Also, that's an absolute side note, but if you are a person who has no issues reaching out to others and you see someone struggling or being quiet, please do reach out to them.
Yeah.
They might need your help. The worst thing that can happen is they'll be awkward and say, actually, I was busy with my day job. And you'll be like, okay, fine. And that's it.
Yeah.
So yeah, please talk about your concerns. It's also very likely that you're not the only one who has them. But also, as we were discussing before, if you don't have time for active pre-play, just read it. Read what is there. If some pieces of it are relevant, try to choose. You don't have to read every single message. Just even if you get a gist of the direction in which things are going, that's also good enough.
Yep. And on the same note, when it comes to sticking to just one thing, when you do engage in pre-play, choosing one thread, one topic, one medium is mostly very helpful, because otherwise you will get scattered information or different groups of people and you will never get anything finished. It's not possible to play with everybody unless the game is very small, but if a game is small, then most probably you will have time and means to follow things anyway, because it's small. Problems usually start with games with 50, 60, 70, 100 something people. So if you stick to one group, one medium, one topic, one subplot, one whatever, you'll get some experience, because it's not possible to do everything at a game. But if you get something that gets a conclusion, that gets enriched by pre-play, and it's one thing, you'll get something valuable for your character, and it will work. It's way better than getting a little bit of everything and never knowing what the thing is about, and never properly getting to know other people and other characters.
But also, please let other people know that this is what you're doing. It's your job to communicate to your co-players how much of pre-play you are willing to do, or if there's anything at all that you want to do in pre-play. Or if you don't want anything, just tell them, I won't be involved in this, sorry. They either will be able to sort some of it for you, or they will have to adjust their plans and expectations, and that's also absolutely fine, as long as everyone's on the same page. So if you don't want to do any pre-play, communicate it and state that, for example, you will be discussing your relations in-game just before the game or during workshops, or you'll find some other option that works for it. Just, tell people about it.
Exactly. And even communicating that you are really good at improvising, and if there are other people who feel like improvising, please, this is me. Yeah. I want to do it in game. It works really well, and sometimes it's super surprising to discover that you can actually do it. I did it recently. It was really awesome, because I'm known for being over-prepared and never really doing anything right, because I'm a perfectionist. So just throwing yourself in the middle of things can also work if people know that this is what you want. Just meeting one another's expectations works always, and here even better than usual. And there is this very good idea that I keep seeing everywhere when it comes to LARPs recently, is exchanging knowledge and skills. Like, I'm good at it. I like to do that. I intend to do this. So this is also how you prepare and how you learn what your skills are, your advantages, your merits, your flaws. And it's also something that can help you with choosing proper people to interact with, and with pre-play or lack thereof.
Yep. I wanted to add one more thing about improvising. I absolutely love improvising because it gives me the freedom to get involved in a LARP without having too many expectations. it helps me be more flexible and creative with my plots because I'm not focusing on this one idea that I discussed beforehand. It helps me be more open for play with other people and creating more new opportunities. So don't feel about improvising as of bailing out of a LARP. You're just approaching it in a different way and will have other strengths.
Mm. And again, if you don't have time for pre-play in character, let's go back to our definition, getting yourself known as a player, someone who has specific skills, who has a face and has a name and want to do this or that or something else can really help, because even if people don't know about your character, they know that you are trustworthy, you love talking, or you like to dance out of character. So in character, you probably find some kind of excuse to do it anyway. So if you don't have time to make your character known, make yourself known by talking to people, and it will be less engaging, less time consuming. Maybe it will make you feel better because some people simply don't feel safe creating a character and talking about them, while they feel safe talking about themselves. That also happens. Mm-hmm. That's also okay. So this is another hint on how to skip it and also relieve some of fear of missing out, which is awful.
It is. All right. We also wanted to discuss food. Yep. LARP is like onions.
Yeah, LARP is like onions, and relations are like onions, and all the interactions are like onions. There are very small onions sometimes, and small onions have very few layers. We are not discussing ogres now. No, but in case of a small game, it's really easy to connect your character with each and every piece of it, because there's simply not much of it. But in case of big games, if you try to do everything, it simply won't work. The onion will be too big and have too many strata. But if you divide your activities into layers and start with the closest to you, then when you have time or means, you can reach further.
Yep. So if I was about to summarize everything we talked about into very, very concise take-home message, it would be communicate and be realistic. Don't be too ambitious. I'm sorry, don't be too ambitious.
Well, this is true. While LARP is a great pastime and we all love it, putting unrealistic expectations can really break your game. So preparing in a way that's good for you before the game, or not doing it because it can also be your thing, can give you a really great, unrealistic, fantastic experience later. So you don't really have to be prepared in all the ways possible to be ready.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Leave this door for opportunity open and trust yourself to be ready, because you already are.
And we hope that we helped you at least a little with being always ready, even if not always prepared. Yeah. Let's see you
sure we did.
some
Thank you.
future games. Yay.
Yes, see you at